Welcome to the Political Trenches Local Government at Work. Today's guest is Brenda Ottenbreit, who is a seasoned municipal administrator within the province of Saskatchewan, working closely with many municipalities, big and small, both urban and rural, from across the province of the land of the living skies. Brenda, welcome to the Political Trenches.
Thank you for having me here.
So, my first question, and this question we've asked all CAOs who've come on the show, so you're no exception. Can you, in your own words, explain what the role of a CAO slash administrator means to you, a CAO in the province of Saskatchewan?
So, to me, the role of the CAO and administrator is one of many hats, where one is the leader of a team. We have to be effective communicators. We're the person who has to research and provide the information to council. We're the ones that take the ratepayer complaints. We make sure that what we give our council is everything they need to make an informed decision that is the best for the whole community, not just a specific few. Um, we answer to our staff, to our council, and to the ratepayers, as well as auditors. In Saskatchewan, many of us are from one person offices, so we wear every hat that we can. We do all the bookkeeping. We make sure that everything's safe in that manner. We do all the HR, the OH&S. We make sure that everything that council tells us to do is implemented within legislation. Um, we have to be able to deal with five things at one time at any point in every given day that we are at work. Um, we are responsible for public relations. We're responsible for getting the information out and keeping our ratepayers informed so that transparency happens. Uh, I think the toughest thing that we have to deal with, though, really is HR.
Hmm. Okay, I'm going to jump in here. And that is the role of administrator slash CAO in Saskatchewan is a little bit different than elsewhere in the country. And some people seem to use the terms interchangeably, but I don't think that's the case in Saskatchewan. Are you able to tell us a little bit about what the difference is between someone who calls themselves an administrator and someone who calls themselves a CAO?
So, under legislation, we are actually administrators. It's not a chief administrative officer, but administrators, for a lot of us, doesn't encompass everything we do in our job. So our job is more than just paperwork and budgets and issuing taxes and utilities. It is so much more. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is what we do, what actually is encompassed in a municipality. Um, you've heard me say this, we're the only level of government that daily touches all of our ratepayers. We are really the only level of government that does that. In order for people to get to work, you're on our roads. If you live in an urban, if you've got water and sewer, that's us. Um, Stop signs within our roads, yield signs, safety. Some urban municipalities have police forces. We have hospitals. I mean, yes, that's under Sask Health, but we have to have the infrastructure in order for people to get there. So it is every day we touch our ratepayers. So when you think about what we have to do to implement those things, you've got zoning and OCP bylaws that we have to abide by because you're constantly thinking future economic development because we don't want to have only our tax bases, like the only income we really always can rely on is our tax bases. So we want to make sure that we have economic development, so we have more commercial and we have people coming in. We HR, like I said, was I think one of our hardest because you're touch our staff and our ratepayers, because I consider HR ratepayers as well, because um, our communication is part of HR in my mind. Communication style, being transparent is part of being effective leaders and dealing and being effective in our positions.
Sure, great. Where the episode, of course, is talking about education, how it relates to CAOs as well. I'd be interested in your story. What's your background and how did you end up in the spot you're in right now, specifically as it relates to the skills needed to do the job you've just been talking about?
So in 2014, I became a single mom and I was working in the oil field business. And if you are anywhere in the western part of Canada, you know that was a downturn. So I got laid off. I was looking for a job with security. And I should have thought twice about that when I read the part that you were at council's discretion, right?
Right?
That should have tweaked, but
Yeah.
I didn't. Municipal, like there's always an opening somewhere for an administrator. Let's just that's how it is. So there's job security in that part. Um, and I actually was told by somebody that I knew that this might be a good position for me because I have 4 kids. Doing a dispatcher job, you have to be organized, you have to be able to multitask. I had some of those skills that came out. So I started the university certification process through the University of Regina. I started taking some classes and then I got an assistant administrator position. And I worked there for 3 years while I did my university classes, then finished and did my year of mentorship because you get your university certification, but you do not reach your qualifications until you've been under a mentor for 1,800 hours. So I did that as an assistant, and then I took on that, and then I moved up as an administrator.
Hmm. Can you tell me a little bit more about that university program and the mentorship? Because doesn't happen most other places in Canada. I think it's kind of unique to Saskatchewan.
It is unique to Saskatchewan, and I like it because it gives you not only gives you the basics because the university classes are you learn the basics, you learn
Mhm.
your basic accounting and then your municipal accounting because public standards accounting you have you those standards are a little bit different from a regular corporate or farm-based business, however you want to do it. The bookkeeping is different, so you learn those standards, you learn um, the basics of how municipal governments came in to play, like how they became into existence in Canada. You learn how to write um, a decision-making item. Like one of the courses is how to do a decision-making item to present to your council, how to present to your council, how to have a little bit of political acumen. Because although we are not politicians, we have to have political acumen in order to actually be successful in our careers, because we're dealing with politicians daily.
Mhm.
Um, and then you learn in your legislation classes what all the legislations that apply to us, where to look. You can't be expected to learn every piece of legislation that we have to deal with within our jobs because we deal with Highways Act, we deal with the Animal Control Act, we deal with planning and development, we deal with the Municipalities Act. We deal with occupational health and safety. We deal with employment standards. We deal with all of those legislations. We can't be expected to know all of them inside out, but we need to know where and how to look at them. The Tax Enforcement Act is another one. There's so many. Basically, every legislation in Saskatchewan, we need to know where to be able to find the information if something happens, because you never know what we end up dealing with, right? So that is our university classes. And then again, mentorship. Now, urban and rural are different. So I got my rural certification first. So I'm dually qualified. I have my urban and my rural certification. Rural, I went under the MAPE program. So the municipality that I had my mentor under had some help through the government. So there was a subsidy that was given to train me. But under that's you do your 18 hours. The administrator that I worked under signed off that I was able to process assessment, process tax enforcement. I learned how to write minutes where I was taught in 1 to 2 sentence maximums. You answer the who, what, when, why, and where, and how much, right? You put that
Right.
all together so that it's transparent. Um, LA FOIP, you had to, all those things that we had to be able to process, that I could develop policies, procedures, and bylaws. So she signed off. There's a checklist in both rural and in urban as well, that we are competent in those. So once those are signed off, then you get your certification.
Can I
Urban
jump in for a second? Because I
has
just want to follow up on what you just said there, just for 2 seconds, if you don't mind, with a question. Real world experience is one thing, education is another thing. The experience that you gather as a real world administrator at CAO can never be supplemented by the education portion. From your
correct.
experience, does the education component complement the on-the-job experience that you developed as an administrator in the province, or do you find that the real-world experience has far exceeded the education portion of that you learned?
You can't learn everything you need to know in order to do the job, or all the experiences you're going to encounter through education. You can't, because they cannot come up with all the scenarios people can come up with.
You don't say.
There's just, um, sometimes anybody that's been in this industry, you can't make this stuff up. Some of the stuff that you've encountered, you just can't make it up. And people, I think that's the one thing that I don't think is stressed enough in any of the education that we do, whether it's the formal education through university or the webinars that we go to, or the continued education, because that is something else. In order for us to keep our certification, we have to have a certain amount of hours every year annually to keep our certification. So you can't just be one and done. It's continued learning. But you honestly, you get a if you go to any of the RMAA or the UMass conventions where it's just the administrators and not council members, and you get us in the networking sessions, some of the scenarios you hear is pretty mind-blowing. Like, so you can't, the formal education can't prepare you for all of that. That's why I think it's so important that we do have those 1,800 hours of mentorship, because you have that one person that's mentoring you that's dealt with some stuff, maybe not everything that you're going to come up with, but has dealt with some stuff and and has the advantage of their network, because after you've been in this industry for a bit and you've got friends in urban, that have done the job. So what I may not have as your mentor, if I'm mentoring you, I may not have experienced it. I know somebody else that might have, so I can contact them going, how did you deal with it? Because as um, I'm really fond of saying, we don't reinvent the wheel here. We learn from other people's experiences. That's the best way to learn. So to answer your question, it complements, but it's never enough. It can't be the end all. If you're thinking that your formal university or like college education is all you're going to need for this job, it's not. You do need the continued education. You do need the networking. You need to be able to talk to other people to see how they've navigated situations, because some of the situations can be something that even the most seasoned people that have been doing it for 20, 25 years don't know how to deal with it, but can support you through.
You mentioned La FOIP or LA FOIP a little while ago too. Just a quick note to the majority of our people who from outside Saskatchewan. That's a reference to the Local Authorities Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, which is unique again to Saskatchewan. You also talked a little bit about the urban-rural experience and the smaller, larger experience. Do you think there's a difference in educational requirements for administrators, CAOs in the small person shop where you're the chief cook and bottle washer, like you described, And maybe one who is in a city like Yorkton, for example, where they may have executive director or general managers and directors in there too. Are the skills and education different for those as a CAO?
The education isn't different. The skills are.
Okay.
Um, because when you're the chief like the chief cook and bottle washer, as you put it, you are the only one doing it. So your skills are more vast, more where in a bigger city where you have those department heads, it's still you need to know the majority, you need to know all of it, but you're delegating the authorities. So in some instances, the chief bottle, the smaller communities where you're a one person office, you're doing the same job as what the people in the city are doing, but they've got seven people doing it and you're one person doing it. So
Yeah,
the education is the same, the skill sets are different.
gotcha. You're also dealing, regardless of big city or small town, you're dealing with a group of elected officials who may be new, may be experienced, may be big fans of yours, may not be. How do you convince them that things like education and ongoing professional development should be important for their chief administrator to do?
Well, first it's required.
Okay.
So that, I mean, legislation says if you want, we have to be certified in Saskatchewan, so it's required. So that A takes a lot of the fight out of it. But B, the first time you hand a decision-making item that entails 3 to 4 different legislation, because that does happen,
Hmm.
is probably the last time you have to fight that because you need to be educated in order to support that.
How do you push back on a council then, and maybe you've never experienced this, that kind of slips into your role or abdicates their own role in terms of governance and the learning that you've done and maybe the learning that they need to do as well?
So I think personally, the council roles and responsibilities and the blurring of those lines is the hardest road and the most challenging and most often thing that we have to tackle as an administrator. Um, so how I started doing it is council orientation. You you do regional if you can't afford to hire somebody like yourself to come in and do it. I've developed a binder. It's like this thick that explains council roles and responsibility. You put policies in place that have you've called it a covenant. I call it a roles and responsibility policy that
Mhm.
puts it out. Legislation actually states what our roles are and our responsibilities. So you just have to follow legislation in order to do that. But um, it's a lot of developing a relationship with your council. It's a lot of when you do this, this happens. Sometimes you have to pull out case law because that happens as well.
Right, sure. So early on into a term, you've been your first day or first week or first council meeting with a new council in a new community. How do you gain their trust? And the second part to that is how do you gain the trust of staff coming in new as well?
So I kind of approach them both in the same way with little nuances.
Sure.
I just started this position on the 2nd of September. So I'm in the middle of doing this right now, right? So my council decision making items, you give your summary of all the information that you have and you give your recommendation. I give them the summary, the whole package as well.
Hmm.
So I want to earn your trust. The information's here for you. Here you go. And being consistent in that. With my staff, I brought every member of my staff in. This is a smaller staff here. So I brought everybody in. We had a 15 to 20-minute one-on-one conversation. Got to know each other. I'm still developing their trust, right? I know it's a work in progress. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm transparent. I admit when I make mistakes. I let people know like I'm human. If something I've said or done is has not landed with you appropriately, please let me know and we'll correct how we do it. It's about taking accountability for yourself and being transparent.
Right. So you've said you must continue on with professional development, but I think those of you who know you will probably say you go a little bit above and beyond the must part to keep your skills solid. How do you encourage that in your staff and in your councils? Because they need to, their situation changes for them too.
I'm a firm believer if you stop learning, you're not living.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm passionate about learning. I'm passionate about going and interacting and learning and being a participant in my learning. It's not just I participate in my learning. I I think that just rubs off. I encourage, and I do state this. If you're not learning, you're not living. You,
So you mentioned book learning. You've also talked about on-the-job experience. You've been through a few different places. Are there nuggets that you've inherited or learned from other places that you brought to Maidstone? Things that, for better, for worse, you've learned from how to do, what not to do, those sorts of things. Pieces of advice that maybe other CAOs or other administrators could learn from.
know your boundaries, stand firm in them, and be professional in them. So you stand firm in your boundary. There are some people out there that if you give an inch, they'll take 3 miles. It's not like, so, and be clear, consistent, and transparent. So I'm a policy girl. I believe in policies. You create a policy, then everybody's treated the same way. There's no, well, so and so gets this and I got this. It's no, here's the policy, everybody gets this. So you're consistent across the board, you're transparent, it's written, it's for everybody can see. That is one of the first things that I have learned. And I'm very firm in if you make me uncomfortable, I'm going to say you either need to take a deep breath. Do we need to take 5 minutes, take a step out where we can come back? Civility is one of the most important things. You're not, nobody's going to come in this office and raise their voice. I will tell you to leave. It's not tolerated. So and actually it's kind of funny. I've only been here since the 2nd of September, but that's already known in this community. She will not, you be polite when you go in. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Already making a name for yourself in Maidstone, Saskatchewan. Good job, Brenda. I want to. Okay, so anyone who's watched this show and watched any interview that Ian and I have done, Ian is usually the more Pollyanna type of interviewer, and I'm usually the more pessimistic and let's just say negative type of interviewer. Now, I'm not going to be negative, but I do have a question that is on the top of many people's minds. Saskatchewan is one of the only jurisdictions in the Confederation in Canada that requires administrators to have education. Now, I learned very quickly when I posted on social media about this role that not all administrators, though, in the province of Saskatchewan needs to have it. The Cities Act does allow big cities to hire someone with no experience, no proper formal education. So there is a little bit of a clarification there. Does the fact that the small towns, villages, rural districts in Saskatchewan needing proper education for administrators hinder their ability to hire administrators in 2025? Because while you and I chatted in person in Regina a few weeks ago, there are many municipalities in the province of Saskatchewan who do not have a formal administrator or CAO because they just can't find them. Do you think that's hurting the fact that municipalities can't find properly educated people?
I don't, so here's the thing. What would hurt them more, having somebody that's uneducated and making them non-compliant and then have to be amalgamated into a different community and you lose your status. So there's 2 points, there's two sides to that. You can hire an uneducated administrator and have a mentor in place, and they can get their education that way. So she's being the person's being overseen. they become an acting administrator at that point, right? So that happens a lot. I think what's hurting a lot of municipalities in Saskatchewan is councils blurring of roles and responsibilities and them getting blacklisted.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow. So I want to pick up on that a
There's a
little bit.
lot of,
Go ahead. Okay, so I want to
sorry,
pick up on that
yeah,
in a few seconds, but I want to just jump into this part because as a mentor, and I'm not sure if you are a mentor right now, there are
I
people who are
can.
probably entering into the field and saying, okay, we have to start with the University of Regina, go through the education portion. How do you get sort of set up? Is it like a political blind date? Is there like a Tinder for administrators in the province of Saskatchewan where you all join this big app and you get set up by political dates and saying, ooh, I like the MGA. Ooh, I like operations. And you get set up with your sort of municipal match? Or how does the mentor get sort of chosen? Is it the province stepping in?
No, we on both the RMAA and UMass, we have a list of mentors.
Okay. So
So we
you
we put
have
our
you
name
been a
in as a
mentor?
mentor. I have, um, not for very long because she,
So can I ask the question that I want to ask before you follow up there? What is the biggest thing that you see with new administrators who come into the role that needs to be sort of, I don't want to say taken out of their psyche, but needs to know about the role of administrator? Because some people go through the education first before even starting in a town office. So, what's the one piece of advice that you would say to someone who is in the program right now and saying, I'm going to be a great administrator. I'm going to be the best administrator. Like all other administrators are going to know that I am the best and I will be the next CAO for the city of Regina tomorrow after 1 year of a small town. What's the advice that you would give to someone who has no hands-on experience that they're about to enter into that hands-on experience time?
do your education. What I mean is ask questions because the job is more than what anybody really understands it is. And that's the reason my mentee quit. Is she said it's way more than what I thought it was. I thought it was just going to be balance the books here and there, deal with a couple phone calls and call it a day. It is so much more than what that's why I said what I said earlier. The job is way more than what people understand it to be.
I'm going to jump in quickly if I can. How much time does it take? Did it take while you were doing it? You said they need 1,800 hours, but how much time and effort does it actually take an existing mentor to do a good job?
We in order to be a mentor, you have to be a certified administrator for 5 years. So you have to have significant experience underneath you.
Sure. What about the amount of
Um,
time while you're actually doing the mentorship job?
so depending on where the person is in their classes and their certification, they have to be completely certified through the university
Okay.
and then 18 hours. So if you 1800 hours. So if you um, my mentee was just going to start, I was a minimum 2 years with her, going to be working with her in the office. And that was going down to the office once a month and being able to do phone calls and whatnot whenever she needed, and videos and stuff like that.
Thanks.
You talk about the on the job real world experience that you get in the role as an administrator. Now, any education program, any education system that I've ever gone through always asks for right at the end of the course to say, is there any areas particular that you would want to see more focus on if someone else was to take this program? So while real world experience is great, what's the one thing these programs can sort of adapt to the ever-changing realities of local administrators to ensure that the next crop, the next generation of municipal leaders, municipal administrators are better suited on day one and not year two?
Focus on how to have difficult conversations.
Really? Is that hard?
Well, when you're shutting somebody's water off, or you're in the middle of tax enforcement and you're in the last process and you're taking somebody's home, yeah, those are hard conversations. Those are really hard conversations. When you are writing an employee up, giving a written or verbal warning, when you're terminating somebody, when you've got had um, a development go sideways and subdivision application has been denied and people have put money into things. Those are hard, hard conversations. So being able ha to have those hard conversations professionally, but with empathy and compassion, sometimes is not the easiest things. When you're being cussed and sworn at, when you are being intimidated, when those things are happening, because they do happen, when you have a ratepayer come in and their pet has been attacked by their neighbor's dog, and those are all things that we've had. You cannot do this job without not having to have had to deal with that. So honestly, we don't get enough education on how to have those difficult conversations.
I want to talk about the future of the role of administrator because you're 11 years into your career. I think if I correctly heard you right, 2014 when you decided to put your name on the school
Mhm.
list to start that training. I would be hard pressed to say that there's a lot more Brendas out there who are saying right now in 2025, maybe I should become the administrator of my municipality. We talked about the vacancies a few minutes ago. Do you have hope that we can get through the sort of ebbs and flows of the administrators right now? Because if we have less and less Brendas like yourself becoming administrators, more and more municipalities are going to suffer because of it. And that's my opinion. Do you have hope that we can see the next generation, the 18 to 25-year-olds, start saying, maybe I want to become an administrator again because it seems like a fun job, even though sometimes it can be challenging?
See, I love my job, even the hard parts of it. So I'm gonna be the Pollyanna here.
Of
Yeah,
course you would
I
be. Of
do.
course I would be the pessimist on the two Pollyanna show.
Um, yes, because I can honestly say out of a lot of careers, I am never doing the same job the same way at any point in time. The only thing you follow the same steps, like some of the procedures are the same steps, but it is never the same. Assessments are different, taxes are different, putting out policies are different. It's challenging and I am sure there are people between 18 and 20 that want to be challenged on a daily basis and not in a difficult challenged way, but to make our brains work and to think outside of the box and be innovative. Because some of the things that we have to deal with, we really have to be innovative. So yeah, I think we can do it. I just don't think it's published enough. I don't think there's enough recognition of what we do. So I think there needs to be more education on that part so that we could get people interested in it.
So why should someone be interested in becoming an administrator?
Because you're never going to be bored. You will never have a boring day, ever. There is not one. And you, so there's got to be other people like me that want to be like challenged on a regular basis and exercise your brain and learn on a daily basis. I don't have to be in a formal classroom to be learning. I learn I learn something at least once or twice every day. So there's got to be more people like that out there.
So my final question before I let the Pollyannas of this show go, because I'm going to be a little pessimistic but a little optimistic about the future. Now, your career has spanned 11 years and you're entering into potentially your 12th year in the great community of the town of Maidstone, Saskatchewan. What does the future hold for Brenda Ottenbreit as the CAO? Are you content being where you are? Are you happy the path that has taken you to where you are today?
Yes, I am very happy where I am. The future for me is I'm hoping that I found my home, my municipal home for until I retire. Um, I kind of want to put roots down where I can be. Again, I am the only employee at council's whim. So as long as council's happy with me and I can continue to see economic growth and development here, I'm happy here.
So I know I said that was my final question, but you know me and anyone who knows me that I say my final question that I add like four more extras. And it's more of an off the cuff one because I've got to ask. Because when we first met in person in Regina, I had asked you, did you know that you have the world's largest canola stock in Maidstone? And you were surprised that I was talking about this. Have you gone and seen it yet? And can people still go and see the great world's famous, I think it is canola, and I apologize if it's not.
It's wheat. It's
Wheat.
wheat. I've actually driven by it and I have seen it. But and yes, it's still there. So yes, I made sure that before I did this, I did that.
Brenda, I want to thank you from both Ian and I for sitting down and chatting about the education portion, about being an administrator or CAO in the province of Saskatchewan. Thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for serving your community. You're right. We need to educate people more on people like yourself who are doing the right thing and putting their name forward and being the administrators because our municipalities would not work without people like you, Brenda. So thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank
Brenda.
you. Thank you both.